There's my telehandler. And under here, I welded a stack of rims together. Just put like 4-inch stitch welds every so often. And I put it right under the differential of my forward drive axle. Of course, you want to chain or strap up your axles. On this truck, I like to strap them up because the paint is so nice. And as you can see, there's plenty of room. Look at this. I can walk right under here basically. Crouch down. The first thing you want to do is take off this access cover. You go in here, try to clean everything up, and then I run my vacuum in here. And just for thinking about when I put it back in, I put masking tape on each of these air lines labeled 1, 2, 3, and B for back, for the one that goes back there. Now this one, I know that I can't get this, the pin out of the shifter. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to take those 4 9/16 bolts from the shifting tower out and lift this right out. Now while I have it out, I'm going to pop that pin out and smooth it out, put anti-seize on it. So when I put the transmission back in, I can put the tower on before I put it back in. Helps keep the dirt out of it. Next, I come up with my 9/16 for the shift tower, my 5/8 socket for the bell housing bolts, and one tool that's helpful. You see how the end of that extension is rounded like that? It gives you a little angle, not quite as much as a U-joint, but it's a lot easier to use. There's my 1/2-inch snub nose Milwaukee impact. And to release the air lines, this is one of my favorite tools, my long reach needle nose pliers. This headlight here, it's a rechargeable, just a Harbor Freight headlamp, but it's my favorite of all the rechargeable headlamps I've found. I like to wear earplugs, helps save my energy. I get the clutch linkage while I'm up here too. That's a 3/4 inch bolt. When you remove the transmission, you got to stick this fork up in the clutch to save the clutch, which I didn't do because the old clutch was junk. But you gotta, if you have a good clutch, you gotta stick a 1/2-inch spacer up between the throwout bearing and the back of the clutch. So I bought these caps and threaded plugs, and that's how I disconnect the oil. I don't like to drain it and pump it back in. So if you do it real quick and you have a drain pan under it, you only lose a couple of drops. I wear rubber gloves when I do stuff like that. So then I let the truck down. I put the jack under it. I take the pressure off. I had to take off this air tank, and I had to take off the drive shaft, obviously. I had to take off the muffler. The drive shaft, I like to just put a chain around it so that when I take off those 3/4 inch bolts, it falls down. I got a ratchet strap holding the slip yoke together. And so once I got the pressure off, I leave 2 bolts in the top of the bell housing, there and there. And so then I jack the jack up till I see a gap in the bottom of the bell housing. And then that's when I loosen up these bolts. Well, I loosen up the bolts a little bit on the top, and then to where there's a little bit of a gap on the top, and then I loosen them up on the bottom. I jack it up a little bit till there's a gap also on the bottom, and then at that point I take out the bolts and I roll it back. Now the transmission is bumping into the cross member here. You see how the back of it's right against that cross member? And the input shaft, see that? I was just barely in the throwout bearing. The throwout bearing is the reason that I'm doing this job. So now what I do, I'm gonna lift the back of the truck up a little bit, and then I'm gonna pull on the pulling the transmission again, and just do a little bit, one thing at a time. So I lift it up a little bit. And then I go in here and just make sure there's nothing catching. See how nice and free the transmission is moving? Look around on both sides. And then I'll keep lifting it up until I can get my stand back under the differential. Looks like I'm completely free. So now I'm gonna lift way up to where I can get the stand back under the differential. This should be about enough. Looks like the transmission is pretty well free. Take a little bit of a risk here. You see that? Got plenty of space. Well, actually I lifted up a little bit more to get it all the way out. You can see how nice lifting up the back of the truck makes it. You know, you can just wheel it right out. Here's the bottom of the shifter. So it has that little pin through it with the clips. And that's why I couldn't get the shifter off, so I had to take off the whole shift tower. So I took the whole shift tower to the vise, and I just hit it with a hammer. Took the little clips off and beat that pin out. Came out really hard. So what I do is I replace the pin with this bolt, and I make sure the smooth part is long enough to go through the bushings. Makes it a lot easier putting it back together. Put a lot of anti-seize on there too. Giving a transmission a basic power wash makes it a whole lot easier putting it back in. Helps keep all your ports clean too, like the little air ports, neutral position sensor, speedometer sensor, and also you never know what you'll find. I found a punch that's been stuck in there for probably years and years.